What if I told you that while you are living in 2026, there is a country on this map where it is only 2019? Welcome to the rugged highlands of Ethiopia. While the rest of the globe rushes forward on a synchronized, standardized schedule, this nation operates in a separate chronological reality. They calculate their days using the ancient Coptic calendar system. By factoring in alternate calculations for the birth of Christ and maintaining a 13-month year, their official dates run 7 to 8 years behind the Gregorian standard used by the West. Ethiopia treats time as a sovereign cultural jurisdiction. By adhering to these internal rules for centuries, they have effectively opted out of the global chronological utility the rest of us take for granted. When a nation maintains its own chronological borders for a millennium, it suggests a deep-seated independence from outside standards. If the world's clock was ignored here, we have to look at what other global norms were left at the border. To find the answer, you have to look past the atmospheric mist of the mountains and go deep underground into the ancient rock-hewn churches that hold their national archives. For centuries, the authorized religious text of the Western world has been strictly defined. Every standard Bible printed today contains exactly 66 approved books. But the Ethiopian Orthodox canon operates on a radically expanded scale. The texts carefully guarded by priests here contain 81 books. These 15 additional works represent a version of history that was debated and ultimately excluded during the formative Western councils of the 4th and 5th centuries. While these texts largely vanished from European libraries as various imperial and church reforms standardized the Bible, Ethiopia's rugged isolation turned its monasteries into a theological vault, preserving records the West simply stopped copying. When you examine the physical pages of these surviving documents, the divergence from standard spiritual texts is immediately clear. The complex grid-like layout you see here functions much like a rigid database, organizing dense historical information row by row. Within these columns are detailed, unedited records regarding the Nephilim, entities described in brief, cryptid fragments in Western texts, but given full, extensive histories here regarding their interactions with early humanity. Other sections act as manuals, recording advanced celestial mechanics and descriptions of ancient technologies that contradict the accepted timeline of human development. You are looking at raw historical data that has not undergone the editorial filtering that took place during the centuries of translation and curation in Rome. These accounts of the Nephilim and early technology directly conflict with the linear, primitive to modern progression found in Western textbooks. Including them would have required a total reevaluation of the foundation of early human history. By operating 7 years in the past, Ethiopia built an intellectual fortress. Their chronological delay acts as a continuous, unbroken seal on human history. This chart compares the two historical paths. You can see the accepted Western timeline narrowed and smoothed over centuries as texts were lost or removed. In contrast, the Ethiopian path continues steadily, carrying the full weight of the original, unedited record. And they secured this record physically, carving the very libraries that house these manuscripts straight down into the bedrock of the earth. If we accept that these Ethiopian records represent a continuous, unedited archive, it forces us to re-examine the gaps in our own version of the past. It suggests that what we call history might just be the parts that survived the edit. These ancient scripts are not dormant artifacts. Researchers are still attempting to decode the deepest layers of the 81st book, translating sections that hint at events we currently have no modern context for. The modern clock continues to tick aggressively forward, but deep inside those ancient mountain churches, the distant past is still alive, and perhaps some of those ancient truths are better left untranslated.